everyone, I hope all of you are doing good. I am Roshni from Learner Hub, the free learning platform. So I am back with the second video on the video series on Heredity and Evolution Class 10th Science. In the previous video, we learned about the Mendel's experiment. So in continuation to that, in this video, we will talk about dominant and recessive traits. We will also get used to few common terms of genetics like haploid, diploid, sex chromosomes and so on. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. What is a dominant trait? Dominant, that means something which is dominating. So something which dominates over something else and wins. So dominant trait is the trait that gets expressed in the offspring, because obviously this trait is going to dominate. So it has to win. So it gets expressed in the offspring. So it takes over the other inherited trait. So that means two copies of trait are getting inherited, right? So one copy is tallness, the other copy was dwarfness. So that is why in the F1 generation, what happened? Which trait got expressed? The tall trait. That means tallness is a dominant trait in this case. So the other trait is recessive trait. The trait that remains hidden, dominated by the dominant trait. That doesn't mean that this trait is lost. This trait is also present in each of these plants. But this trait is being dominated by the dominant trait. So the dwarfness is also present in each of these tall plants, but just that the tallness has dominated over the dwarfness. So that is why in the second generation, what do we see? We see that this trait which was hidden in the first generation gets displaced. Since it was there somewhere inside them, that is why it got displaced. It got expressed, right? Had this trait been completely vanished, then it would have not been seen in the next generation, right? Because here in the parents, you do not have any of them with dwarfness trait. Right? So that is a dominant trait which gets expressed in the offspring, recessive trait which doesn't get expressed in the offspring. It gets dominated by the dominant trait. Now the question is, when the recessive trait is always dominated by the dominant trait, why is it that it ever get expressed? So why not in this case also it not got expressed? Why it got expressed in the second generation? So now the question in our mind is that when does a recessive trait get expressed, right? So just remember this question. We will come back to this question as we go ahead. So let us first look at some of the examples of dominant and recessive traits so that this becomes very, very clear in your mind. For example, when I talk about the earlobes, I just spoke about this free earlobe and attached earlobe, right? So you will see that most of the people will have a free earlobe, and this attached earlobe is less common. It is less seen in people. So what does that mean? This free earlobe is a dominant trait. So the free earlobe is a dominant trait, whereas an attached earlobe is a recessive trait. Similarly, when you look at the eye color, you have people with brown or black eyes, and that is more common than people with blue eyes. So the blue eye is a recessive trait, whereas a black or a brown eye is a dominant trait which gets expressed more often. You would have also seen people with hairs on top of their fingers like this. You would have seen many of the people have these hairs on the back of their fingers, right? So have the present, but there are certain people who do not have these hairs. Now the presence of this hair is a dominant trait which gets expressed more often. You will see in most of the people you'll have these hairs, whereas the absence of hair is a recessive trait. So for everything you have certain traits which are dominant and certain traits which are recessive. So now our question is, under what condition the recessive traits will be displayed? So now a very important question is that when do these recessive traits or the hidden traits get expressed? As we saw in our previous slide, that dominant traits are those who dominate over the recessive traits. That is why they remain hidden. So now the question is, why is it that they remained hidden in F1 generation but they reappeared or they expressed themselves in F2 generation? So what is that situation when they express themselves? Now, as we have seen, recessive trait remains hidden, dominated by the dominant trait. Now, it appears only if the offspring inherits a copy of the gene from both parents. Not very clear, right? So, it means that, for example, let us take an example of any recessive trait. I took the example of eye color. The blue eye color is a recessive trait, right? So, now when a person has a blue eye color, what does that mean? That means the recessive trait got expressed in that person. So when it gets expressed, if that person inherits a blue eye color from his father as well as a blue eye color from his mother, that means if both the parents contribute the same recessive trait, only then it gets expressed in the offspring. Right? That means, let us suppose if the father has a brown eye and the mother has a blue eye. So in that case, one parent is contributing the dominant trait, the other parent is contributing the recessive trait. So in that case, which will get expressed? The dominant one, of course, because it will dominate over the recessive trait. So what will be the eye color of the offspring? It will be brown. But if both of them contribute blue eye color, that means if both the father and the mother have a blue eye, in that case, the kid will also have a blue eye. So this trait gets expressed only if the offspring inherits a copy of the gene from both the parents. So both of them have to contribute for the recessive trait to get expressed, right? Now, before getting into, I already gave you a small introduction to Mendel's experiments, but that is not all. In this lesson, we are going to understand Mendel's experiment in depth so that we can understand the principle of inheritance. Right? Now, before we discuss Mendel's experiments in depth, there are few concepts which you should be familiar with. So let us first get those concepts clear. That is, what are the basic things that happen during heredity, that means during passing of traits from parents to offspring. So once we are clear with those concepts, then we'll again get back to the same Mendel's experiments and try to understand it in depth, right? So let us start with these basics. First question, what happens to the chromosome numbers during reproduction? So the reproduction which I'm talking about here is sexual reproduction, because the scenario in case of sexual reproduction is more complex. Like in asexual reproduction, what happens? It is just a copy of the parent. So they are the offsprings are generally genetically similar to the parents, but there are small differences sometimes, and that arises due to the faulty copying of DNA, right? But in case of sexual reproduction, there is a lot more things involved, because one parent contributes some traits, the other parent contributes some other traits. So that combination that decides what characteristics will the offspring actually have, right? So let us talk about the sexual reproduction here. So we have already discussed the process of sexual reproduction in human beings in our previous lesson, right? So now here, if you see, you can see an egg cell and a sperm. Right? So when they both fuse together, they form a zygote, and these zygote, upon repeated divisions, gradually form an embryo, and the embryo later forms the fetus, and the fetus after 9 months takes birth in the form of a small baby. Right? That is what we talked about in sexual reproduction. Now normally, where are these chromosomes? What are chromosomes? I don't think I need to explain that again, right? We already know what are chromosomes. In previous lesson, we have talked about it. So they are located inside the nucleus of a cell. Now cells are present all over our body. Now all these cells have chromosomes which exist in pairs. So all the cells inside our body, they will consist of chromosomes which exist in pairs. That means there will be 2 chromosomes existing together. So there will always be 2 chromosomes existing in pairs, right? So, and these kind of cells which have chromosomes in pairs, they are known as diploid cells. Right? So there are 2 types of cells based on how chromosomes are present there. If chromosomes exist in pairs, they are known as diploid cells. If chromosomes exist singly, they are known as haploid cells. Clear? So now, inside human being, total how many chromosomes are present? There are a total of 46 chromosomes. So there is a new term which is introduced here, that is diploid and haploid. So whatever new terms we come across now, we'll just make a note of it so that we can discuss them later in detail, right? Okay, now in human beings, so every human being has a total of 46 chromosomes in each cell, and each of these chromosomes exist in pairs, right? So that means how many pairs? 23 pairs of chromosomes exist. In our previous lesson also we talked about it. The sex cells, that means the sperm cell and the egg cell, these are the specialized cells which are not diploid. They are haploid. That is, they have half the amount of gene or half the number of chromosomes. So therefore, the sex cells or the gametes, whatever you call them, they have half the number of chromosomes. That is, these cells are haploid. So how many chromosomes do they have? They have 23 chromosomes because they do not have chromosomes in pair. Right? So that is the difference between all other cells in the body and the specialized sex cells or the gametes. Clear? Okay. Now what happens during reproduction? So for reproduction in human beings it is sexual. So we need two parents. Right? So one is a father, the other one is mother. So they both are involved in the process of reproduction. Now how are they involved in the process of reproduction? What actually happens? From the father's body, that is from the body of the human male, a sperm is produced. So the father releases the sperms. Now this sperm during the process of sexual reproduction enters inside the mother's body and it fuses with the egg cell of the mother body. Right? When these two fuses, a zygote is formed. Now just now I mentioned that what is this sperm? Sperm is a haploid. Right? Now what will these sperm consist of? Now inside the father's body, if you look at the father's body, inside the father's body there are a total of, in each and every cell, I'm just talking about any cell inside the body. So any cell inside the body will consist of 46 chromosomes, right? Now out of these 46 chromosomes, 44 chromosomes are not the sex chromosomes, but 2 chromosomes are sex chromosomes. That means these 46 chromosomes are actually 44 autosomes and 2 sex chromosomes. Now what are autosomes and what are sex chromosomes? They are again some new terms we are hearing. Autosomes and sex chromosomes. Now for now you can just understand it in this way, that sex chromosomes are those chromosomes which decide the sex of a particular individual. So sex chromosome will decide whether that individual is a male or a female. So that is the purpose of sex chromosome. What are autosomes? They will control all other characteristics of the body. So they will not decide sex. So these 46 chromosomes are actually 44 autosomes and 2 sex chromosomes, and they all exist in pairs. Similarly, inside the mother body, so inside the mother's body also there are so many cells, and each cell has similarly 46 chromosomes, right? Out of this 46 chromosomes, there are 44 autosomes and 2 sex chromosomes. Now what happens during reproduction? During reproduction, this father will contribute half of the autosomes and half of the sex chromosomes. That means what will the father contribute? The father will contribute 22 autosomes and 1 sex chromosome. Similarly, what will the mother contribute? The mother will contribute 22 autosome and 1 sex chromosome. Right? And how will they contribute? They will contribute via these sperm and egg cells. So what does the sperm consist of? The sperm consists of 22 autosomes and 1 sex chromosome. Right? The sperm is nothing but the carrier. So the sperm consists of 22 chromosomes and one sex chromosome. So that is why we say that sperm is a haploid, because in haploid cells they have half the total number of chromosomes which are present in all other cells of the body. So sperm has a total of 23 chromosomes. Similarly, egg has a total of 23 chromosomes, and that is why egg and sperm are haploid. Now these sperm and egg will combine together and they will form zygote, right? Now, what will the zygote consist of? So, 22 autosomes of sperm combined with 22 autosomes of egg. So, 44 autosomes again, and one sex chromosome of sperm will combine with one sex chromosome of egg. So, two sex chromosomes again. So, a total of 46 chromosomes, right? So that is how now this zygote will then grow and develop and become a new individual. So that is how every individual gets 46 chromosomes from their parents during sexual reproduction, right? So what did we understand with this discussion? We understood that both the parents contribute equally during sexual reproduction. Clear? So please make sure that this concept is very, very clear, because based on these concepts we will talk about many other things. So if this is not clear, you are not going to understand what I'm going to talk in the next few slides, right? So what do we see? That these haploid sex cells, that is the sperm and the egg cells, they contain one representative of each type of chromosome. Let me take a small example here. Let me take the example of the eye color. Now let us suppose this father will contribute one chromosome from each pair. As I said, the father has 23 pairs of chromosomes, right? So one chromosome he will take out from each pair and he will give it for the kid. So that is how he will give 22 autosomes and one sex chromosomes. Now let us take the example of hair color. Now let us suppose for hair color, the father has some traits. Say the father has a brown, sorry, I'm talking about eye color. Let us suppose that the father has a brown eye, right? So what will the father do? The one chromosome with which the father donates is for brown eye color. Similarly, the mother contributes a blue eye color. So these two chromosomes will pair up again. So the brown eye color chromosome will pair up with the blue eye color chromosome. For example, if this is the father, this is the mother. Let us suppose father contributes a brown eye color chromosome. The mother contributed a blue eye color chromosome. Now after fertilization, the sperm and egg combined. So these two chromosomes paired up, right? So one is for brown eye color and the other one is for blue eye color. So which one will dominate? Brown eye color will dominate. So therefore the kid will have a brown eye color, right? So that means this sperms and the egg cells, they will contain one representative of each type of chromosome. So they will not carry the pair from each parent. So they will take one representative from father, one representative from mother, and after fertilization they will combine the two. So they will pair up again. Okay. So with this, the process is clear. So now we will talk about these new terms which we came across. So what were the new terms introduced? Autosomes, sex chromosomes, diploid and haploid cells. So we will talk about each of these terms in detail one by one. So let us start with autosomes. So let us look at autosomes in little detail. So these are the chromosomes other than the sex chromosomes. As I mentioned some time back also, that inside the human body, there are two types of chromosomes which are present inside the cell. One is a sex chromosome and the other one is autosomes. So these autosomes control different traits of the body. For example, eye color, eye shape, hair color, skin color, ear shape. So all other traits of the body except determining the sex of that individual is performed by the autosomes. Now these autosomes exist in pairs and each member of the pair have the same form. But they differ from other pairs in a diploid cell. That means When I talk of autosomes, all the autosomes, they will exist in pair. So these two autosomes of one pair will be exactly similar to each other. But if you compare this one member with another member of some other pair, they will be different. They control the somatic traits. Somatic means something. The word somatic means something related to the body. So they control all the different traits of the body. So these are autosomes. In humans, 22 pairs of autosomes exist. As I said, in humans there is a total of 46 chromosomes. Out of these 46 chromosomes, 44 are autosomes. Now since they exist in pairs, that means two autosomes together, so we can say that 22 pairs of autosomes exist. The other type is the sex chromosomes. Now these chromosomes determine the sex of an individual, that is whether that individual is a male or a female. Now how do these sex chromosomes function? That is actually very important. Now in humans, one pair of sex chromosome exists. So out of 46, 44 are autosomes. So how many remained? 2. So the remaining 2 are sex chromosomes. So they also exist in pairs. So we can say that one pair of sex chromosomes. Right? So now how is the sex determined by these kind of chromosomes? As I said, during reproduction, the father as well as the mother, both will contribute equally. So what does the father contributes? The father contributes 22 autosomes and one sex chromosome. Similarly, the mother contributes 22 autosomes and one sex chromosomes. So now these sex chromosomes which are contributed by the father and the mother, these together, the two sex chromosomes together decide whether the child will be a male or a female. Right? Now how it decides whether it is a male, which situation is the child a male and under which situation is the child a female. So that we will see in one of our next slides, that how that is exactly decided. So here in this picture you can see the total 46 chromosomes in human males. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these numberings, they are all autosomes, and this last one, this XY, this is the sex chromosomes. So the sex chromosome in case of a male is denoted by XY. So this is how a male sex chromosome denoted in a human male. Whereas in case of a female, this is how it looks like. This will also have some 22 pairs of autosomes, and the last one, that is this one, is the sex chromosome. So in a female, it is denoted by XX. So in a male, the sex chromosome is denoted by XY, and in a female, it is denoted by XX. Right? So during reproduction, the mother will contribute one of these X. So the mother will always contribute one X. Right? Because she has both X's. So one of these she'll contribute. So every time she'll contribute X. But the father has an option to contribute either X or Y. Now depending on what the father contributes, the sex of the child will be determined. Now if the father contributes X, then what will be this pair? This will become XX. And what is XX? It is a female. Now if the father contributes Y, it will become XY. And what is XY? XY is a male. So it will be male. So basically whether the child will be a boy child or a girl child is always determined by the father. Right? So these are autosomes and sex chromosomes. Let us now talk about the diploid cells and the haploid cells. So diploid cell, a cell with two complete sets of chromosomes. As I said, so in diploid cells, the chromosomes will always exist in pairs. So here you can see. So how is this pair formed? One set is given by the father, the other set is given by the mother. So that is how these two sets actually are formed. Whereas haploid cell is a cell with a single set of chromosomes. So here you have just one set. So examples of haploid cells would be the sperm cells and the egg cells, that is the gametes. Gametes would be the best example, because in case of gametes, each of these gametes contain only one set of chromosomes. They do not exist in pairs. Right? But all other cells of the body, that is all the somatic cells, are examples of diploid cells. So all other cells of the body are diploid cells. So diploid cells will have two sets of chromosomes, and that is why chromosomes exist in pairs. So one set from father, one set from mother. In haploid cells, they will have either the father set or the mother set. For example, the sperms contain the father set of chromosomes, the egg cell contains the mother set of chromosomes.
I hope this video was useful. If you have a feedback to share, do let us know in the comment section. And if you really enjoyed the video, do not forget to share it with your friends as well. I will meet you all very soon with a new video, with a new topic. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.